Hello and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic and another scorching day here in the UK. I'm slightly worried that I'm going to completely overheat trying to record this video, but anyway, I'm going to give it my best shot. Yesterday we covered John Cleese on the channel. Today we've got Willy Wonka. This is Willy Wonka's Pyramid Sudoku, which he published a while ago on our Discord server, and then it went to Logic Masters Germany. And it's attracted comment from some of the luminaries of the puzzle setting world. People like Nylim, Richard Stolk and Fistemafel have all raved about this puzzle. So it ought to be brilliant. The testing reports say it is brilliant, and it's quite approachable apparently. That's not Mark's words, so hopefully we can trust that report. So definitely one to try. Now, a few things to mention before we kick off. Miracle Sudoku, the new game that we're releasing, hopefully imminently. I know many of you have been writing to say, why isn't it out yet? It was meant to be out on the 10th of August. Well, it's not in our control. The game is finished. The game is with Steam. It's with the App Store. It's with Google Play, but they have to approve it for release, and that's a process that can take well, we don't know. It's up to them, but it should be imminent. So what I'll do is, as soon as I hear news, I will obviously tweet about it. So if you check out @CrypticCracking, you will see news as soon as I get it on when the game is out. Now next, Prasanna Seshadri, the brilliant constructor from India, has a puzzle competition running this coming weekend on Logic Masters India. So I've had a look at the instruction booklet for the competition this morning. It looks very, very cool. It's a sort of mixture of Sudokus and puzzles. And knowing, well, the quality of Prasanna speaks for itself. So, I mean, if you want to have a good time this weekend, definitely get yourselves over there and check that out. I fully commend it to you. Cryptic crossword content. I found myself yesterday with about 20 minutes to spare, so I recorded myself solving a puzzle by the constructor Maze, which appeared in The Independent recently. Maze is a brilliant setter of cryptic crosswords. So that I'll probably release that on the channel tomorrow morning UK time. So if you're interested into your cryptic crosswords, then do check that out. Now I have to tell you the rules of Willy Wonka's puzzle. It's quite simple today. What we've got is a sort of partial killer Sudoku. So in the killer Sudoku cages here, we've got to make sure they add up to the number in the top left hand side. So these cells have got to sum up to 21 without repeating a digit, obviously. And other than that, is that there is a knight's move restriction. So if this square was a 1, for example, then 1 could not appear in any cell that is a knight's move away from this cell. Obviously, that's a chess knight could jump to all of these squares, and therefore you can't repeat the 1 in any of those 8 positions. And that's all there is to it. So do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. With that, I will delete that one, and let's get cracking. Now, where should we get cracking? Right, okay, so this configuration in box 8 immediately jumps out at me. Why is that? Well, in Killer Sudoku, the answer to the question of life is not 42, it's 45, and that's because that's what you get if you add up all of the numbers from 1 to 9. And you know that in the finished solution, every box, every column and every row in the Sudoku will contain the digits 1 to 9. So if I know that this whole box here adds up to 45, but these two cages add up to 29, those two cells have got to sum up to 16, and there's only one way of making 16 without repeating a digit, and that is with 7 and 9, so we get some pencil marks. Right, okay, but then we can use those pencil marks. Look, on box 7. We can do arithmetic on box 7 as well now. What do these 7 cells add up to? Well, if we know these two cages add up to 46, then these cells must add up to 46 minus 16, so they must add up to 30, and that means those two cells must add up to 15. So they're either 6 and 9 or 7 and 8, but we don't know which. I mean, actually, just taking a step back for a moment, it is quite remarkable this puzzle has a unique solution. I mean, it obviously does because it's had such plaudits, but look at how much of this grid is completely unclued. I mean, that's more than half of it. The entirety of the top half is devoid of information. That is really incredible setting. Those two as well. Anyway, this box is less useful by the looks of it. Look, we've got 26 in those two cages, so those cells have got to sum up to 19. I wonder if we can use the base of the pyramid here, because if we... Yeah, okay, let's look at this. There's definitely a relationship between these 5 cells and these 2 cells. Now, why do I say that? Well, if we ask what the sum of all those cells is, it's going to be 3 lots of 45, because it's 3 complete rows of the Sudoku. 3 lots of 45 adds to 135. Now, if I add... Let's add these cages together. Actually, I should colour those in or something. So let me add the cages. Got 46, 64, 78, 108, 123, 134. So the purple cells add to 134, but the bottom 3 rows add to 135. So that is quite interesting, actually, because these cells have got to be really small then. In fact, they don't quite have to be a minimum. If these squares, let's make these squares a minimum just to show you what I mean. If we made those squares 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, then we would know that the purple squares now, so remove the 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, which add to 15, the purple squares still left in the grid add to 134 minus 15, which is 119. But I know the bottom 3 rows add to 135, so those 2 squares have got to add up to 16 at least. Well, so they must have a 9 in them. They can't have a 6 in them. And if it was 16, these would both be 7 and 9. But these could add up to 16, couldn't they? Because I have 1 degree of freedom. I could make these add up to 17. So either these add up to 15, or they add up to 16, and we can add an 8 to the options here. But we know for certain there's a 9 in one of these cells, so we know for sure that is not a 9. Nearly. It's nearly good. We know there's 1, 2, 3 and 4 in here. That cell's a bit restricted, therefore, because that cell sees the entirety of this quintuple. So we can't put 1, 2, 3 or 4 in this cell. This square's got to be 5 or greater. Not helpful. Bobbins. Maybe we've got to use the whole pyramid then. I can't see anything else to do. So let's try the whole pyramid. Let's make that all coloured in. So so we had 134 before. Let's add the 15 in. We get 149. Okay. So now I think what we're meant to do, we shouldn't use the bottom 3 rows on their own. We should use the bottom 3 rows and box 5. And so all of these boxes will add up to 180 now, but the purple squares add up to 149. So yeah, okay, this is good actually, because how do we use the arithmetic to our advantage? Well, if we look at all of these cells together, you can see these cells are all included in that sum. So to get from 149, wasn't it? To get from 149 to 180, we need to add in each of the green cells and deduct out those 2 cells. I'll make those blue. Now that is a problem. Well, it's not a problem, it's actually a solution, in fact, because how am I going to do this? I've got to make these as big as I possibly can. And I can't repeat digits. It's not like I can put 4 9s into the green cells. I absolutely can't. The highest I could make the green cells would be 34. I think, in fact, that's going to be what I have to do, because if I make them equal to 34, then I've got 149 plus 34, which is 183. So I need these two squares to be as small as possible in order to make the maths work. And I can just do it if I make these two squares 1 and 2. So this is how it works, basically. The way we get to our 31 balance is we have 34 minus 3, and nothing else will satisfy that condition. So we have to make the green squares maximums, the blue squares minimums, and we get to a starting point, which of course hasn't given us a digit. A digit would be too much to ask, but it has at least done something useful. Has it? Maybe? That can't be an 8. Is that the best we get from this? We get no 8 in this square. I don't believe it. Now hang on. If we know that these two add up to 17, we now know that this is not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So there's no 5 in there. So this square now can't be 6, 8, or 9. This has to be 5 or 7. This is not straightforward, is it? It's very interesting, but it's not straightforward. So, how do we get more of a restriction here? Maybe I've got to use this box. At least I know this is a big number now. So this domino has to equal 10 or 11. Because I've got 26 plus either 8 or 9, and I need 45 overall. So this domino here is equal to 10 or 11. That does tell us something about this cell. Look, this cell cannot be a 6. Otherwise we'll blow the bank on the 15 cage. So this square's a 3 or a 4. There's a 6. Now we get a digit. Now we're off and running. There's a 6 in one of these two squares. Now in the 18 cage we can't repeat the 6, so this square is a 7. In fact, we're going to get more than one digit because that 7 sees that square by knight's move. So we get those two. This 9 fixes the 9 and the 8. So 9 can't be here because of the knight's move. 9 must be in one of those two cells. 7, look, is locked into the 11 cage. So this 11 cage is fixed. It must be 1, 3, and 7 because we know that the other two cells have to add to 4. And there's only one way of doing that in 2 cells. So look at row 7 now. I've got 24 in those squares and another 14 in this cage. 24 and 14 is 38. To get 45 for the row, those three will have to add up to 7. So they must be 1, 2, and 4. There's a 1 in this cage already, so they can't be 1. So this square is a 1. And this square, rather beautifully, can't be a 4, because if that's a 4, it rules a 4 out of its cage and a 4 out of this square by knight's move. So we could no longer place a 4 in row 7 of the grid. This square has to be a 3. That's gorgeous. Okay. So now 3 must be in one of those two cells. Actually, we can work out. In fact, it must be here because we need to put a 3 in this row. Obviously, these two are ruled out by the fact that it's in the column of this one and a knight's move away from this one. So these two squares have got to be 5 and 6 to add up to 14. And that means that square can't be a 5, because that would rule a 5 out of both of those squares. So this square is a 7, good grief. So that means 7 is locked into one of those two squares by Sudoku. These squares down here have to be 1, 2, 4 and 8. Now this cage is fixed because we've got, once we get this down to being a 4, 6, 4, we've got 10 plus 7 is 17, that's got to be a 1, that's got to be a 2. That means the 2 and the 4 gets fixed. And the 15, this is amazing. The 15 cage gets fixed now. We've got 9 in it, so that must be a 6. And now look, we've got 10 plus 11 is 21, plus 15 is 36. This square's a 9, that square's an 8, and we are cooking with gas. These squares have got to be 8 and 5, I think. So there's no 8 in these squares. No 1 in these squares. These yeah, look at that. This cage now, we've already got 8 in it, so that domino has to add to 13 without using 7, 6 or 8. So this is a 4, 9 pair, which gives us, that's a 1, 2 pair. The 2 here fixes the order. I might have to get rid of the highlighting soon. It's starting to distract me. This square's a 3 by Sudoku. It's a 4, 8 pair. The 4 here bounces back in there and fixes the 4, 8 pair. That's rather nice with the 8s, look. So the 8 now is locked into the same position in box 2 that the 9 is. That is an 8, 9 pair. Obviously this square cannot be an 8 or a 9 because of the knight's move constraint. This 4 fixes the 4 and the 6 in column 5. 4 lives up in one of those cells. This 8 bounces back over here. This is ridiculous. 8, 5 gets forced. The 9 fixes the 4 and the 9. Good grief, it sort of all unscrambles itself somehow. So these are 2, 5 and 6. This 5 fixes the 6 and the 5 in the middle. That locks that one out from being a... This square is a naked single actually, because there's a 5 and a 2 there pointing at it. So this can only be a 6. Is that we got something similar over here? We can rule out 1 from that one. It's not as good because we haven't got the 3s and the 7s close enough. 3 and 7 are only there in box 8. But we've made a reasonable start. That can't be a 5 because of the 5 here. This square's got to be a 1 or a 5. Okay. What do we do now? The reason I'm sort of acting a bit perplexed there is because I am actually perplexed. Because we seem to have resolved almost the entirety of the pyramid and we haven't really got into the top part of the grid at all. There you go. Where does 8 go in row 6? This 8 sees both of those squares because of the knight's move. That 8 sees that one, so we do get an 8. Now actually this is interesting. Look at the 8s. These 3 8s have quite a nice effect on box 1. Where does the 8 go? It's got to be in row 1 or row 3, which is the same as where we managed to lock the 8s in box 2. So now we can ask the question, where does the 8 go in row 2 of the grid? It can't go here, it can't go here, it can't go there, look. So it's got to be in one of those 2 cells. And it can't be in this one. Beautiful. Beautiful. If it's here, 8 is ruled out of both of those squares. That won't work. So this is not 8. 8 is there. And therefore 8 is here because of the knight's move. Oh, in fact, there's just an 8 in the row. So this row, let's return to it. We need 5, 7 and 9. 5. 5 is ruled out of both of those because of the knight's move. So 5 goes here. 9 goes here. So this row does get resolved. 9 is similar to 8's, look. 9, 9 and this 9. 9 is locked into row 1 and row 3 in these boxes. So 9's got to be in one of these two positions. Five here gives us the 5 and the 2 at the bottom. The 7 here rules the 7 out from that square. 5's got to live in one of these 3 squares. Ah, now that's beautiful. This is a common trick with anti-knight puzzles. Can this square be a 5 now? The answer is no, because if that's a 5, you can't put a 5 in any of these 3 squares, and that won't work. So this square, oops, has to be a 1. That square is a 5. That gives us the 2, gives us the 1. 2 must be in one of those 2 cells by Sudoku. 5 is forced. 5 is there by Sudoku. So 5 is in one of these 3 squares as well. Ah, now this is interesting. This is interesting. Look at this column. This column is 4, 5 and 7 in some order, but that square can't be a 5 because of the 5 here. So we actually now can place the 5 in box 3. How can we do that? Well, once we know the 5 is locked into one of those positions in box 2, it's no longer possible for the 5 to be here or here in box 3. It would remove our ability to place a 5 in either of those positions. So we remove 5s there and we place 5 in this cell, which means there's no 5 here. This is beautiful, isn't it? The way this is unwinding is just stunning. Now, where do we look next? Ah, so removing the 5 from there has left me with a 5-8 pencil mark. That looks good. So that is a 5-8 pair. Let's look at this column, therefore. We need to place 2, 3 and 4. That one, no. That can be, well, we know the 2's up here. That can be 3 or 4. This one can't be 4, so this is 2 or 3. And that one is 2, 3 or 4. Nearly, but not quite. 9 must be over there by Sudoku. These 3 squares are a bit restricted, look. So they've got to be 2, 3 and 6. So the way my scanning works, by the way, is the moment I put that in, I'm looking at this cell. And the reason for that is that when you get a triple on a border in Knight's Move Sudoku, this cell sees every single one of these cells. So this cell cannot be a 2, 3 or a 6, and it can't be a 1, 4, 5 and 8. So this is a 7 or a 9. And it can't be a 7. It can't be a 7. Look, 7's here and here. So the 7 is locked into one of 2 positions in box 4, both of which see this square because of the Knight's Move constraint. That is a 9. Oh, it doesn't. It gives me that 9. It gives me something. Just not what I thought it was going to give me. Maybe this row now? 3, 4 and 6. So this square's got to be 3 or 6. This square, oh, this square is massive. Look at that square. It sees a 3 and a 4. So that square should be a 6, I think. Which means 6 is locked up here. But more important than that, bouncing the 6 back over this side of the grid gives me a 3 here, a 4 here, a 2 here, a 3 here. So let's have a look. We need 6 and 7 into those 2 positions. And this 2 is seeing that square. So that's a 6. Oh, beautiful. This is beautiful setting. Look at this column. We need 2, 6 and 7 to place. So let's have a look at this column. And let's think about this square. Where does the 6 go in this column? It can't go in those 2 positions. So it must go here. That gives us a 7. Does anything see anything here? I'm so conscious when I'm solving these puzzles, especially Knight's Move puzzles. It's so easy to miss a simple restriction. Let's have a look at this row. I think we've got so many digits in it. We need 2, 4 and 7 to complete it. So that's just a 4. Okay, 4, 7, 2, 6 go into the grid. So these squares have got to be 1, 3 and 4. That can't be 4. Or 3 because of this 3. So this is a 1. So this is a 3, 7 pair, meaning this is a 1. Gives us a 1 in the top box there. So 3, 7 and 9 into those squares. No doubt something's looking at them. What is it? I can't see. I don't know. I don't think this 3, 7 is resolved by anything though. The 3, 7s are too far away. So let's have a look at that square. That square's got to be a 3 or a 4 to complete the column. Again, nothing gets close to it, so these 2 squares, they've got to be 1 and 6. Does anything resolve that? Don't think so. This 5 is what look at that 5. It's seeing that one. I should have seen that ages ago. So that's an 8. That's a 5. This is an 8. This is a 9. The 9 moves up there. The 5 must be here, which means this must be a 4. The 4 does see those cells, doesn't it? So the 4 is locked into one of those 2 positions. Where does 7 go in this box? We've got these 7s operating on it, ruling out everything apart from that square. That's huge because that gets me into the 2s and the 3s over on this side. Forces a 3 up here, does it? Yes. 1, 4, 4, 3. 3, 7, and 1, 6. And I think that's how to solve Pyramid Sudoku by Willy Wonka. What a beautiful, beautiful construction. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me churn through that. I've just about managed to do it without completely wilting. And yeah, do let me know in the comments whether you enjoyed the puzzle. We do read the comments and they mean a lot to us. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.